Who do we have? Do we have, sorry, Ethan, Sam DePina, Ana Tavares, Denise Snyder, Miriam Ortiz, Avery Estelle, Tony Beatrice, everybody's here?
Yes.
Yes.
You're all set.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
Good morning. For those of you who just joined us, my allergies is terrible today. And so I'll be off camera with my tissues. I appreciate you. All right, we'll start now. I don't have a gavel, so it would be silly to knock on my table. Please accept good morning as the opening. All right. Good morning, everyone. For the record, my name is Tania Fernandez Anderson, the District 7 City Councilor. I am the chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Ways and Means. This hearing is being recorded. It is being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-TV and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and Fios Channel 964. The council's budget review process will encompass a series of public hearings that begin in April and will run through June. We strongly encourage the residents to take a moment to engage in this process by giving testimony for the record. You can do this in several ways. Attend one of our hearings when in person to give public testimony. We will take public testimony at the end of each departmental hearing today, and also at a hearing dedicated to public testimony. If you have missed those, feel free to email us. The full hearing schedule is on our website at boston.gov/council-budget. You can give testimony virtually via Zoom as well. For virtual testimony, you can sign up using our online form on our council budget review website or by emailing the committee at ccc.wm@boston.gov. When you are called to testify, please state your name and affiliation, residence, and limit your comments to a few minutes to ensure that all comments or public testimony and concerns are being heard. Email your written testimony to the committee at ccc.wm@boston.gov. Submit a 2-minute video of your testimony through the form on our website. For more information on the City Council budget process and how to testify, please visit the City Council's budget website on at boston.gov/council-budget. Today's hearing is on docket 0760-0762, orders for the FY24 operating budget, including annual appropriations for departmental operations for the school department and for other post-employment benefits OPEB. Dockets 0763, 0765 to 0766, orders for the capital fund transfer appropriations. Docket 0764, 0767 to 0768, orders for the capital, including capital budget, including loan orders and lease purchase agreements. Our focus area for this hearing will be an overview of the FY budget for the Boston Public Schools with a focus on arts and music, athletics, after-school program, tutoring, summer learning, and partnerships. Our panelists for today's hearing are Sam DePina, Deputy Superintendent of Operations, Ana Tavares, Deputy Superintendent of Equity, Family, and Community Advancement, Denise Snyder, Chief of Family Engagement, Miriam Ortiz, Chief of Community Engagement, Avery Estelle, Senior Director of Athletics, Tony Beatrice, Executive Director of the Arts. I am joined today by my councilor colleagues, Councilor at Large, Councilor Aaron Murphy, Council President Ed Flynn, Councilor at Large Julia Mejia. For our format today, as I mentioned, this meeting may be a bit brief. Your chair today is a bit under the weather, just way too many pollen, and it's catching up to me. And so I hope you don't mind that we wrap this up, hopefully within a couple hours. For our format today, we'll first go to my council colleagues for opening statement, just 30 seconds each, and then to the administration panelists for their presentation. With quick hands up, if we get a consensus that you want the information or budget breakdown presentation by our budget analyst, councilors, you may request to do so or to have it presented by me, and I'm happy to do so. If not, we'll just go straight to round one, and then round two, public testimony and closing statements. Councilor Murphy, you have the floor for your opening statement.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, BPS, for being here. Looking forward to this conversation. There's no surprise, I've been advocating loudly for more investment in our athletics, our before and after school programming, our extracurricular, equitably across all school activities, and making sure that that's not just a one-time ESSER fund. I spoke last year about, the dismal amount that we invest, and we definitely need to invest more and have it be ongoing and sustainable. Also want to touch on what we call hold harmless soft landings. I did just receive at 9:51 my 17F enrollment, so I have not had a chance. I'd asked for that 2 council meetings ago, so I haven't had a chance to really look through that yet, but can follow up with questions after about those based on the information I did just receive before this meeting. But looking forward to the presentation, and also being a strong advocate that our students, staff, and have the right funding to make sure that social emotional wellness, which ties into athletics and extracurricular activities, is there for our students. So thank you, Chair, and I hope you feel better.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy, and thank you for your kind thoughts. Councilor President Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Madam Chair, thank you for your important leadership. Thank you to the panel for being here as well, and for what you're doing in support of BPS students. I know the importance of after-school activities, sports, arts, culture, and music. They bring us together as a city in a way nothing else can. So looking forward to this conversation and how we can work together to support our BPS families, our BPS students, on arts, culture, music, after-school programs, sports programs. So let's work together. Thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Council President Flynn. Councilor Mejia, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you feel better, Chair. Just like you, I also suffer from allergies, so I am sniffling and sneezing, and my eyes are watery. So I feel your pain. So we're just going to get through this. So just want to say good morning to the administration. Happy to be here as the chair of the Education Committee and as a BPS parent, and more importantly, a BPS graduate. I have seen what a difference enrichment opportunities makes in the academic and social and emotional well-being of our students. So really excited to be having this conversation, because I know those investments really do help support the whole family, the whole child, in ways that this moment requires. So excited to dig in a little bit deeper. I am particularly interested in the conversation around social and emotional and mental well-being supports as it relates to working in partnership with nonprofit organizations and the role that our community partners play and helping to support BPS. So looking forward to leaning into that work and being a partner in this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilor Mejia, you as well, for the kind wishes. And You always look nice, but you look stunning today. I really like the hat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. To the administration, the floor is all yours. There's a lot of you, so I wouldn't say 30 minutes, but if we could do the presentation within 20 minutes, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning, counselors. My name is Nate Cooter. I'm the Chief Financial Officer here at the Boston Public Schools, and I'm happy to be joining you this morning. I think Councilor Mejia's comments teed us up nicely for the discussion today. And I'll be sharing my screen and opening with this statement from the Opportunity and Achievement Gap Policy, and I think today's hearing is really appropriate for us to start here. We're talking about all of those opportunities inside and outside of school that help enrich a student's experience. And so we're super excited. I'm super excited here to be talking about arts, to be talking about music and athletics, all the things that help round out the educational experience and allow our students to thrive in traditional and non-traditional ways. And so I won't take too much time because our team here doing the work is ready to share with you some of the exciting things that are happening for our students. This, of course, fits into the superintendent's overall budget priorities, particularly as we think about how we can support our students throughout high school with their social emotional needs and rounding out our supports through opportunities after school and in the summer. And then finally, we're going to hear a lot about community engagement, both in the way that we use conversations with the community to support the direction of our athletics policies to help be responsive to student requests and family requests around the arts, and of course, a lot of family engagement surrounding after school and our summer programs. To put this in the overall context for anyone joining us for the first time today, BPS has a recommended budget of $1.4 billion. This represents a $71.7 million increase over our last fiscal year. Our budget can be thought of in three big categories: those that are strategic investments, what we're doing to cover the increased costs of doing business, and then of course, what are we doing around long-term sustainability, around enrollment, and our revenues with the master planning. With that, we'll jump right into the content, and I'll turn it over to Avery Aisdale, our head of athletics.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your time and for having us. I think really excited about this presentation because I think everybody here, we all share similar efforts in our work and have a lot in common in the work that we're doing. In athletics, obviously, as we head into FY24, our focus still remains around access, opportunity, and experience. On the slide here, you can see some of the highlighted opportunities and expansion and experiences that we have created and we're planning on continuing on with our resources that we have for FY24. I think the highlighting piece being our work that we've done with expanded summer opportunities across the board for all students in the district in a number of different areas in an effort just to increase engagement. And I think also similar to what we're doing with the rest of the district, looking at some opportunities to get ahead and make improvements and further build in on the experience that our student athletes are having. So some of that was involved with obviously the facilities and work there, but also some of our work in providing adequate supports. Two of the main ones that really have made an impact. One, being able to provide more access to athletic training and sports medicine support for our students, and then also an investment in additional positions in the department, and those being regional, full-time regional athletic coordinators, and a eligibility and compliance manager. So I will leave that there, and I will pass it over to Tony Beatrice to speak on the arts.
Thank you, Avery. Thank you, everyone, for your excitement about the arts. As I'm excited. This is a really stellar year for us as we're realizing the investments made for mass course, and now all students have to have at least a year of arts in order to graduate, with exception for our vocational program. And with that came 23.5 new high school arts teachers this year, which has been completely transformative. Some schools may have had one or no arts teachers before, and now all of our schools are flourishing. In our investments for next year, now that we have all these great things happening at the high school level, we've also realized that our high school auditorium spaces in particular need a little work when we're talking about cutting edge lighting, sound equipment, curtains, and seating. And so within the capital projects in the budget proposal is $2 million for auditorium upgrades, which we also hope for our elementary schools to utilize when they're doing their musicals and plays. And also $500,000 for arts, dance, and music classroom upgrades. So this could be everything from clay traps that go in sinks to soundproofing for music rooms to instrument storage lockers, things like that. Based off of questions we got last year, I made a packet that's linked in here that talks about our programming, our curriculum, partnerships, our professional development, and an example of our return on investment with MassCorp, a special project that was done this year with the Burke, combining their art, music, and dance teachers in a beautiful project. So that is it for our arts and music update, and I'll pass it off to Dr. Ana Tavares, our Deputy Superintendent.
Thank you so much, Tony. Thank you again for having us with you today to discuss our commitment and investments in family and community engagement, including our oversight and investments for expanding learning opportunities and partnerships. I'm really looking forward to having you all hear details of our work from my colleagues, Chief Ortiz and Chief Snyder, while we've implemented on a great number of investments and continue to move the work forward. My team and I acknowledge we have a long way to go to improve what engagement means systemically for the district so that all families have the encouragement, the support, and the services they need to feel welcome as full partners in our work, and thereby gaining access to opportunities that help close opportunity gaps for our children in the city of Boston. As we touched on at our last meeting, we move this work forward aligned with and supporting the 6 academic priorities, which I know the counselors know, but I want to include them here as well: inclusive education, multilingual education, equitable literacy, social work, restorative justice, our CellWell work, alternative ed in high schools, and of course, at the core of this work, community engagement for our team. That said, I've asked both Chief Ortiz and Chief Snyder to share some of the specifics around investments we've made this year that demonstrate our commitment to the work and the direction in which we're headed. We will present on both community engagement, which is our public-facing work, and of course, family advancement, which is our school-based work. Chief Ortiz, if you could please begin.
Thank you, Deputy Tavares, and good morning, counselors. I will begin by sharing that the community engagement team has been growing from 5 FTEs last year to now a team of 6, including 5 community engagement manager positions and 1 director position. Within the current team, they have language capacity in Spanish, Haitian Creole, and Vietnamese. The CE team is housed at the Bowling Building, and one of their roles is to design and carry out engagement opportunities for the BPS community. At times, this will look like organizing and facilitating community meetings, securing interpreters, and managing logistics throughout the meetings. Back to school info sessions, district-wide COVID updates, or important policy updates that impact the district as a whole are some examples of the type of engagement that this team provides. It is realistically impossible for a team of 6 to carry out all the engagement needed for the district, so they also serve as capacity builders for our division and for other teams. They are highly skilled in facilitation and provide technical assistance, support when requested to other central office teams. For example, Welcome Services and the Capital Planning team, who recently organized info sessions regarding exam schools, admissions, and the Green New Deal, respectively. The community engagement team is also responsible for hosting the Community Engagement Advisory Council, or CEAC. CEAC is a group of leaders from 15 to 20 community-based organizations that are convened to provide advice and direction to the CE team. They meet 8 to 10 times a year, and their members also provide support to our district with outreach efforts, hiring committees, and other ways. As Deputy Tavares indicated, there's always room to growth. Designing and implementing authentic community engagement opportunities requires time, a deep commitment to relationship building, a conflict resolution attitude, and most importantly, a student-centered approach to achieving goals. In a district like Boston, where so many priorities must be juggled simultaneously to address the needs of all our students with the urgency that our students' needs require from us, it is often difficult to slow the pace to design engagement efforts that are grounded in the principles I mentioned above. That said, we remain committed to continuing improving our practice because the work that is completed in community, as you know, takes us farther. So we're committed for collective work whenever possible. Talking about the helpline for a little bit, the helpline is continuing to expand to better meet the needs of the true volume of support required of the district. So in addition to a new helpline manager, we're looking to hire 3 additional multilingual staff to our team of 5 helpline specialists. Currently, they have language capacity in English, Arabic, French, Spanish, Cabo Verdean Creole, Portuguese, and Somali. The 18,881 number that you see refers to how to date the helpline has engaged the BPS community by phone, email, informal walk-in service, and community engagement requests. The helpline uses a robust case management system called Fresh Desk that not only tracks the notations related to central support, but communication with all parties contributing to the resolution. The original requester can add their own notes, track progress, and contribute feedback on the support articles that will be added to an online library of support. The helpline is working with departments and schools to add capacity where needed. We have been useful to schools and families on matters like understanding code of conduct hearings, staffing information tables, and special projects like supporting families engaged in the absentee reporting process. I'll conclude by stating that currently the helpline has a pending request for 2 additional FTEs to complete the initial projected staff need of 10 to 12 specialists. We're evaluating ways to improve our increasing volume of in-person support requests by finding on-site building resources. And the helpline will continue to evaluate service needs to determine an extended standard hours, potentially looking at a 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. similar to the transportation team. I will now ask Chief Snyder to tell you about family advancement.
Thank you, Chief Ortiz, and I want to say thank you to the counselors for having us here today, for your investment in Boston Public Schools, and for your leadership and advocacy on behalf of our families. I want to say that family engagement means a lot of things to a lot of people, but for us, it really means creating welcoming spaces and building capacity in both our educators and our families to be in partnership, and connecting community members to resources and embracing opportunities to make decisions collaboratively and informed by our families' needs and wants. We do a lot of that work via our family liaisons. As you know, family liaisons, there's one based in every school, and while they report directly to their school leader, our office manages their professional development and curates a professional learning community for them to build networks to learn and support each other. We have a team of liaisons that well represent the communities in which they serve. So for example, 55 of our family liaisons self-identify as Latino, Latina, or Latinx. The work that they do, such as fostering relationships, is a way of helping families engage in how they best show up to represent their own children's learning, to foster their own children's learning, and to build a bridge between home and school and develop those relationships, and as needed, mediate issues as they arise. They also connect with families and do so all year long. They work over the summer, which means families can continue to receive support even when school is not in session. That's particularly helpful for new to the school families who may be transitioning in and may not have access to the information that other families have about the school. And then, as I said, they're often the conduit because they are deeply rooted in the community to know where the resources are and how to connect families, whether that's to housing or to food or to healthcare or to supports for academics. We also know that their role, and we invest heavily in the training around their ability to foster parent leadership. As we build trusting relationships, they also help promote the idea that parents are in fact our partners and should be part of decision-making processes. They also serve on many support teams in the school, including student support team. They often lead attendance work in schools. I do want to say that even though their work alone in attendance can't be siloed or segmented out, their efforts have helped lead to an 8% decrease in chronic absenteeism. I want to shift a moment and talk beyond our liaisons and note Parent University. Parent University is a very proactive, thoughtful entity that provides the ability to build capacity in our families across the district to support their children's education, to be that partner in their education, whether that's ESOL, whether that is a welcome to school, get to know us, whether that is a reading club or a literacy club or a STEM club. There were 38 unique opportunities this year. Those are unique opportunities, many of which were clubs and series that ran 10 or 12 sessions. And we reached more than 1,600 caregivers during those workshops. I do want to acknowledge that even as we invest and we highlight all of these things, we know that there are areas for improvement. One of them that's come up this year a lot is around developing our school parent councils and our school site councils. We believe we've moved the dial probably 50%, well, actually I want to say 100% from where we were, and we've still got to double that number. One of the ways we're going to get to accomplishing this work is the investment and the expansion of our engagement facilitators to match the regional support structure. This year, in phase one of that support structure, engagement did not have that opportunity. We didn't have the staffing for it. We're investing, we're shifting our resources, and we're investing in that structure so that no matter what the support structure is talking about in the area of whole school improvement, engagement can be a fundamental piece of that conversation. At this point, I do want to hand it back to Chief Ortiz as we move to the next slide.
Thank you, Chief Snyder. The Partnerships Office is excited to have spent this last school year supporting partners and schools as they continue to welcome each other back into their spaces post-COVID. We have gotten the opportunity to engage with both schools and partners to support with their students and families' needs. Part of the support comes from the now fully staffed partnerships team. We have a director, a manager of industry partners and volunteerism, and a brand new position designed to support community and faith-based partners. The vast majority of that work particularly has been going out to meet with local women-owned and BIPOC organizations where they are to bring them into the district's partners portfolio. This has been particularly true in the faith-based and entrepreneurial communities we have worked to address barriers to access for partners, like offering support in navigating the various systems across the district, for example, registering as a supplier. In FY24, little...
Pardon me. Ma'am, how much longer do you think you will need to present?
This is our last slide for the engagement team. I'm not sure, I think there's maybe one.
There's more?
I think this is it.
This is the last slide. Yep.
This is the last slide, okay.
Awesome.
So 5 minutes?
You're doing great. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. So as I was saying, in FY24, a little over $6 million is going to be awarded to 54 schools. Each of those schools will work with a central office-based partnership fund liaison to support them in strategically engaging with partners who will best meet the needs of their school communities. We know that it can sometimes be a lot for schools to have to keep their buildings running day to day and have the time to broker relationships with partners. So the work of the partnership office aims to support that and add capacity for schools. We're excited to continue to support schools in the strategic planning around partnerships to ensure that those relationships truly benefit our work in school communities. And I will send it to Chief Snyder to speak about summer and fifth quarter.
Great. I'll keep it very brief. I know our time is just about up, and most of what I would hit upon is here on the slides. Summer is an area that we continue to invest in heavily. This summer is a 25% increase over last year. 130 programs, both with our partners, in partner sites, in schools, are opportunities to serve approximately 7,000 students. Those are matched by opportunities in programming such as extended school year, such as high school recovery, credit recovery, exam school initiative, and programs for multicultural, multilingual learners, adding another 10,000 seats. So 17,000 students will have the opportunity to participate this summer in learning programs with a wide range of partners and experiential opportunities. We make it accessible both through a registration website where families can register in any of the recognized BPS languages. They can get support in a number of ways. We have hub stop transportation to our largest buildings that serve multiple programs, and we do prioritize our high needs populations first. And then as we shift to before and after school programs, you can see the types of partners and the types of funding structures here on the screen. This year, we did roll out ESSER-funded before and or after school programs in 8 schools, and we'll be extending that to 20 schools for next year. And I will leave it at that and recognize that we can address a lot of more additional topics in your questions. Thank you.
Right on time, Ms. Snyder, appreciate that. I guess you did need 35 minutes. My bad for underestimating you. So I think we'll go straight to questions. Councilor Murphy, I have my questions ready. If you're ready, you can go first.
Sure. I'm ready. Yep, I'll be short. Thank you.
No problem. You have 8 minutes, Councilor Murphy.
Oh, okay. I won't need it. Thank you. First, thank you all for your presentation, informative. And Denise, I appreciate you mentioned when you talked about the family outreach and having to expand that, but also that those working in that space, that the needs of our families always are more than just what most people assume are school-based concerns. So making sure that we're funded enough and training is there enough for those working, or if we need to expand those positions, please make sure that you share that with us, or if we're shifting money, Nate, in some way to fund it more in those positions. And my question there was like, how do we calculate success? And you mentioned central based, and that for me is equitable, and I can tie it into then the conversation. I think Anna, you were, or Mariam was speaking more about the before and after school programming, and something as a, a BPS teacher for so many years, knowing that depending on what school your child's at, it really would make a difference on what before and after school programming is offered. And you are partnering with some schools, and I think that's good, but is there a goal that they're all centrally based so that every school can offer, and if each individual school doesn't have the means to, like you mentioned, because it can be a strain on some communities to get their day ready and do that right, and then also have to provide this extra support, which we know in this day and age, especially coming out of COVID, it can't be extra, like it has to be offered for our kids to succeed and close that achievement gap. And then one last thing I can add to this summer programming, which you're increasing, which sounds great, but we did have, I held a hearing a few months back with facilities, because some of our buildings, which I think is wonderful and needed, are gonna be under construction. The Murphy is one. But that was going to interfere with not just the summer camps, because BCYF was there, but also our ESY for our students with, extended school year. Do we have we secured locations and transportation and making sure that families are able to access that, even though it will be in different locations for many, and that staff is lined up and ready to go for that? And I'll leave it there, and after they answer, Chair, I'm all set. Thank you.
Councilor Murphy, thank you so much for that question. I'm just going to launch, as you know, being a longtime principal of a school that had an after-school program, and knowing and understanding that families choose schools according to that particular plan, and being very sensitive to that and understanding that systemically we still have a ways to go in order to ensure that every single school offers a before and after school program. I know that Chief Snyder and Deputy Superintendent DePina can speak on that second half of your questioning regarding the facilities, but just know that this is something that's very close and dear to us as a team, really thinking about how to ensure that those programs are available at all schools. Chief Snyder?
Yeah, thank you so much, Deputy Superintendent. I will say a couple of things here that we touched upon. We talk about success of the family liaisons and how do we measure that? I want to just briefly say that there are definitely measurements when we look closely at things like I mentioned. Attendance, are our students attending school more? Is the engagement there? One of their core jobs, building parent leadership. So are there full rosters or growing rosters of parents showing up to school parent council, participating in school site council, participating in other types of decision-making committees? That's all measured. Climate and culture survey. Those pieces on engagement, we should start to feel them show up in culture and climate surveys as a way to acknowledge that. We talk about before and after school to Dr. Tavares' point. It is a puzzle piece, and I think it would be great both to have the funding and the blanket coverage at Central and say, we're doing it all, but our schools don't always want us to do it all. So what's called for here is this year, we have a director over before and after school programs who is inventorying. Let's begin the inventory. What do you have? Does it meet the hours and needs of the families? Does it cost anything? Is it free? Who are you partnering with? What are the opportunities? Because some of our schools have amazing partnerships with someone down the street doing beautiful work that is exciting for kids. And others have maybe a lackluster partner, or maybe one that's not affordable to families. And others have nothing. So we are doing that inventory measured against transformation schools, measured against opportunity index, as we ask for and grow funding to meet those needs, because it really should be wherever they need centralized help, we should be there to deliver on it. I'll leave that. And summer, yes, I feel like it has been a lot of moving pieces as different schools suddenly come online or offline because of an opportunity to do something with the electricity or to do something else with the building. But we're really excited. We're feeling like this is now people know where the transportation is, where the schools are located. The job postings are up. It's very exciting. It's all coming together at the time that it should. It's good movement.
And I would just add, Councilor Murphy, that we have been coordinating with our city partners, BCYF and PFD, to ensure like the programming and the work gets done at those sites.
Thank you. Just know we're here, myself and colleagues, to support if needed, but thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. Councilor President Flynn, if you're on.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question would be, what is the biggest challenge facing BPS in their athletic program? Is it a question of funding? Is it a question of logistics, lack of facilities, all of the above? How are we going to improve athletics for BPS students?
Good afternoon, Councilor Flynn. Before I turn it over to Mr. Esdale, I just want to talk about some of the investments that he did name. One of the challenges that we had faced previously is just the sheer capacity and volume of the work that's required to coordinate the athletic services. And in taking a closer look at it over the last year and a half, the capacity that we've added with the regional coordinators as well as the compliance manager was an area that we felt that we struggled with up until this point. So now we'll have a dedicated person to check eligibilities, coordinate eligibility requirements with school leaders, help ensure that we connect with the MIAA, and the regional athletic coordinators will also help us have more direct contact with the different athletic coordinators at every high school. So we think that by adding capacity in central office, that helps spreads out some of the work in order for us to add programming and coordinate the programmings that are currently in existence. But Ms. Esdale, I'll turn it over to you to add anything else.
Councilor Flynn, thanks for the question. I think it's as we continue to work to meet the need and the requests for more opportunities. I think the piece that comes up and the piece that we have to continue to work together on is the sheer capacity and logistics of running an athletics program in a city where there's numerous athletic interests, there's community groups, there's youth groups, there's adult teams, right? So it's all good stuff that's happening. But I think in terms of what our access truly looks like to the facilities, how do we continue to work with parks and with other city entities when there's opportunities to make improvements, to address, some of the things that we need from a competitive aspect, always comes into play. So I think everything that you touched on are legitimate pieces. I don't think they're impossible. I think they're just pieces that as we continue to have more conversations, as we continue to have opportunities to provide feedback and have input on next moves and strategic planning that we can address. But I think, like everybody knows on this panel and on this screen, there's a great interest for everything that we all are offering and right. And I think that the challenge is how do we make it all fit, in what we currently have and what we're looking to build on.
Thank you. My final point on that is I don't want it ever to be said that our student athletes couldn't play in a game because someone didn't file a form to MIAA or the bus driver wasn't there to take the kids that were already at English High or something, or the Burke to a game across the city. The bus driver just didn't show up, or any other logistic related issues. I'm a big supporter of BPS, but I don't have any. I'm not going to have any tolerance for student athletes not being able to participate because of logistic challenges. So that should be a priority. And if that's not a priority, we should make it a priority over the summer where we can address those issues that we can anticipate coming up. But any student athlete that wants to play softball, they want to play basketball, they want to play football, and they're doing well in their academics, there's no reason at all that we can't get them to the game on time, that we can't get the right paperwork in on time. Athletics brings out the best in people. They work hard on the field, but they'll also work hard in the classroom as well. So my priority, my top priority for me is to make sure BPS also takes this as a top priority. If you don't have the funding for it during this budget, please let me know, because I don't want to have any issues as we start the school next year. I mean, this year in August. So those are my comments, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. If I could briefly respond, Madam Chair. I just want to note that the driver shortages that we've been facing over the last year and a half is starting to stabilize. And as we, and I just want to give a special thanks to our transportation department, our vendor, TransDev, and also the drivers union, and help push and recruit and get more bus drivers hired. So we have significantly increased the number of bus drivers that we do have. So we are confident that some of those missed routes that we've had in the past with transportation will improve next year because of the level of bus drivers we will have on deck. We're also thankful that this added capacity will also give us central office folks in the athletic department opportunity to provide more professional development for the coaches so that they can understand the work that they do better, support them in their goals and their training needs. And lastly, helping with mental health first aid for our coaches to help with some of this social emotional work as well. So we're happy and confident with the direction we're going in, and we'll hopefully yield more results, and hopefully we can get you out to a game, Counselor. We can enjoy taking one of the games next year. I'd love to do that.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you to the BPS team. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Council President Flynn. Councilor Mejia, you have the floor.
Thank you. Okay, so I am just curious. Let's talk a little bit about Parent University. Let's start off there. As a parent who worked in the education space before I became a city councilor, I did a lot of coordinating and partnering with Parent University to facilitate programming. And I'm just curious what has happened since, over the last few years in terms of your numbers. How many parents are utilizing Parent University? What is the budget for Parent University? And what are the return on that investment? What's that looking like?
Sure. I am going to have to get back to you on the total budget for Parent University, as it includes salary, materials, stipends, and payment to external contractors. So I will pull all of that and submit that.
Snyder, is that a part of BPS's budget?
Yes, it is part of it, and I'm happy just to pull the numbers. I just need to.
So would it be in the books?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
While you go on, Councilor Mejia, I'll try to find it for you.
Okay. You may find it listed though under parent supports, and that's a wider net because it will also include the work of the family engagement team. Would be my concern though.
Understood. Okay. Please submit it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think thank you, Chair, for the asking for some specifics. I think that, in order for us to really truly understand the return on investments that we're making in terms of your budget, Nate, it would just be great if you can just really be specific about certain programs. I know understanding it's one bucket, and when you have a big bucket, you think, wow, look at all that money they're spending in family engagement. But then when you break it down a little bit further, you really have to ask yourself, what is that return on investment? And when we think about family engagement, what does that really mean to the district when I'm still getting phone calls from schools that are asking me for support to help increase their engagement with certain groups of people that have been, that have felt left out of the process. And so my office over the last few months has been working in deep partnership with the Sumner and reactivating the Latino affinity group and building capacity for recent arrivals and Spanish-speaking parents and helping them understand the American education system and building community. And we do some sessions at 8 o'clock in the morning and we do some sessions at 6. And so if we are doing this and the family liaisons from these schools are reaching out to our office and asking us for support, I just want to name that there is an opportunity for us to really think about what building capacity looks like for our family liaisons and what we could be doing more of to ensure that our budget really reflects the capacity that some of these schools with special needs have. So I just want to name that as something that we need to just have a little bit of responsibility around. And I'm curious, Denise, since you're here, can you talk to me a little bit about kind of what your efforts are moving forward for real meaningful, deep family engagement, since you seem to be the one that is here talking on behalf of family engagement?
Yes, certainly. It's a space near and dear to my heart. It's where all of my work has been since Countdown to Kindergarten through the time I left for Lawrence and have returned to Boston. And what I've learned about our needs and our assets and how we match those together, really does shape what we're looking at ahead of us. One of the things I want to say about Parent University is that it's morphed over time, right? We used to have centralized, large, citywide events, and they were beautiful and they felt good and there was good content. But when we looked at who came, it was always the same people coming back over and over and over again, which has its own place, but also for the money was not reaching enough people in terms of what we could be doing. The pandemic put us entirely into Zoom mode. A lot of the sessions still continued, but they were remote. We learned a lot from that. We have sessions like the back to school session in which over 800 people attended.
I'm sorry.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, just because I know my time is going to be limited.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I utilize my time as effectively.
Sure, please.
So I guess my question and that what I really want to get at is really what are we doing right now to ensure that parents feel heard in the decision-making processes and that we are not spending our time and energy building the capacity of parents.
Okay, so you're mentioning decision-making capacity, and some of that is Parent University, but some of that is the work of family liaisons in schools who are on the ground and knowing the families in their building and encouraging them to take those steps to become louder voices in their buildings. And then for us as a district, offering we have a school parent council training. We have school site council trainings. We offer the elections. We oversee the elections in schools. We have a jointly developed with the BTU school site council manual. Any family member can work through the liaison, they can work through the school, they can call their engagement facilitator when they're concerned about what are the next steps and where do we go from here. And with shared decision-making, I think that that's the part that I feel like as we grow into the regional model of 9, so we have one engagement facilitator embedded in all of the school improvement plans, that's where we're going to move the dial on ensuring. Because we know if you're not at the table, your topic's not getting talked about. And if it's not getting talked about, it's not going to be measured and it's not going to happen. We're moving into a space of representation for our families and engagement as part of the way we support all of our schools.
Thank you. I'm curious about how the district is really looking at the school culture and climate surveys. And I worked with the Boston Compact 5 or 6 years ago, and we worked with 6 Boston public schools, 3 charter schools, and 3 parochial schools. And as parents, we created our own family engagement, school culture and climate survey that we administered ourselves. And we took it upon ourselves to decide what were the next steps that we wanted. So there was a lot of energy for allowing parents to really be a part of those processes. Things have changed since, Tommy's time and, all these different leaders. And so I'm just curious that based on when we did that, there was a level of advocacy that we were able to do with Parent University, with the parent councils, that there was a lot of energy around some of the schools that we worked with to look at that data and then inform and influence some of the changes that they wanted to see. And I'm just curious if the surveys that you do, what happens with that information? I've asked Nate in several hearings about exit interviews in terms of why our families leave. Is it because they don't really feel seen or heard in our schools? Sometimes it's family decisions. So I'm just curious about what's the sense of having data if we're not really utilizing the data to really inform our practices? Because it doesn't seem to me there has been much of a shift in terms of engagement. So can someone just answer, the whole idea is when you know better, you do better. So how are we doing better with the information that we're gathering from families?
Councilor Mejia, I think your questions are really pivotal because they target those things that we're trying to grapple with on the ground. One perfect example, because I like to ground it in the real stuff that's happening at schools. When I think of, for example, you shared the work that you're doing at the Sumner with Deanna and Aaron, who are the liaisons for the Sumner. It's an incredible support to think about this work as a village. You as our counselor, and then the work that we need to do at the district level with your office and in partnership with you and in partnership with the school. I think there's so many layers to that to just double down on the points that you're making, and how are we fortifying the liaisons so they feel like they're supported centrally is something that Chief Snyder was touching on, that's still the work that we acknowledge is still ongoing. And, at my level, I'm doing a lot of work with the school superintendents and with the principal of the Sumner, and thinking about the ways in which we don't just create meetings that look the same within our community. One of the things that I know that Megan, with her team, with Deanna and Aaron, that they did recently is thinking about bringing families around an event, and then using that event, like the salsa dancing partnership that they have, like an event that's very community centered, and then using an event to then hold a meeting. So thinking about engagement from a different, just a different approach. So that's a concrete example that I can give you that's particular to the Sumner. That doesn't mean it solves everything. Councilor Mejia, and I think we have a long way to go.
I just want to be mindful of my time, and I want to make sure that I'm using it effectively. We recently partnered up with Boston Day Union Academy and did just that. I know we created a whole resource.
Excuse me a minute, Councilor Mejia, you've had 10 minutes, but I'll allow a couple minutes to wrap up. Is that okay?
Thank you.
I know it's never enough time. 2 more minutes, and we'll come right back to you, okay?
Okay, thank you. So, yes, I appreciate all of those efforts, and I'm just curious, as you continue to think about investments, what I really struggle with is that you all spend a lot of money on consultants, many of which are disconnected and not part of our community and or our culture. So we have millions of dollars going into studies that are being conducted by Harvard and all these other folks, right? And the white dominant culture and people who think that they know our people. I'm just curious, when are we going to start really looking at investing in parents and or students who are living the realities, who are navigating our schools? How are we going to start to really stipend them and see them as leaders and as facilitators, and so that they have a sense of agency in the decision making, because they don't trust the system. I'm going through my own trust building exercise with the system. I'm trying to lead by example, but when are we going to really start investing in our own people so that they can be a part of these discussions? And when are we going to start paying them for that work? That's what I want to hear about.
I thank you, Councilor Mejia, because you're always centering the thing that is very important to me as well. And when I think about the work that we've done with, just to give an example, C-Plan, who's been helping us with signage across schools, and Deputy Sam DePina can speak to that work that he's been doing with C-Plan and IFSI and even St. Stephen's, in really trying to take their guidance around what does it mean to really engage from a community, from the community, by the community, and with the community. And I appreciate that you're always pushing us to do that better. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, so I appreciate that, but what I'm asking specifically is, where's the budget to pay parents to be real professional parent leaders in this space, and that we are compensating them and not asking them to show up as volunteers and to fix all the problems, and then everybody around the table is getting paid except the parents. That's what I want to know. Where's the budget for that?
So I would love for just a moment to address a little bit of that. I think it's a growing space for us, and it's one that we've got to lay out and put guardrails around so that we make sure that there is a systematic approach for the work. But I do want to highlight a couple of things. We've been working with 9 parents since January on high quality indicators for family engagement, and they are receiving a stipend for their work. We are partnering, as Dr. Tavares mentioned, with St. Stephen's, but also individual schools are doing this, and we're about to release an RFP for more schools to do this, a program called Parent Mentoring. That is an opportunity to pay parents directly to be in schools 10 hours a week and receive training.
That program I fought for in 2020 and 2021, and that money is just coming in, right? So it's been 2 years since we've been advocating for those dollars, and they're just now making their way into these schools. And I appreciate processes because they're important, but I will just say, with the last 30 seconds that I have, is that we need to really—
1 second, Councilman Mejia.
More aggressive about kind of like meeting the moment. And I'll stop right there. Thank you, Councilor Anderson. I appreciate your grace.
Absolutely. You all should know that when my sister Mejia goes on, everyone brace their seat. And even I'm scared, so I will allow her the time that she needs. We have to get to the bottom of this. Some of these questions, these hearings are not fair. They're not structured for proper conversation. And at least as I evolve in my position, thinking about other ways of doing Robert's rules that actually encompasses true conversations, so we can get to the bottom of things. Jumping around like this is just not fair to my colleagues. And so not to speak to you guys have nothing to do with this. We struggle with this type of format all the time. For my questions, Councilor Coletta, I noticed your name. It was my turn. I will come back to you in round 2. If you missed my opening, obviously, I think you did, and you just joined us about a few minutes ago. I mentioned that I was going to wrap this up because I'm a little under the weather and trying to take as many pills as I can so I can get to the redistricting hearing. So please allow me to wrap up my questions, and then we'll go into round 2, and I think that would be fair so that we could fit everybody in. And so for my questions, I think I'll just piggyback on Councilor Mejia's points in terms of family engagement, as well as empowerment, as well as respecting families' time and incentivizing families, parents, especially immigrant parents who come in, who dedicate their hours. And as we know it, homeschool connections are built on volunteerism. Welcoming environments are built on volunteerism, and building that confidence that children need in order to feel at home in their schools, right? All of this relies heavily on parents' presence within the schools. So there is a lot of validity in volunteerism as well, a lot of value rather in volunteerism. And so I want to ask you about, and I know that you have family liaisons in every school, you have FCOCs sort of scattered or sharing schools. you have community outreach or engagement folks also sharing schools. And I think, you know, mapping this out per capita would make a lot of sense. So you would say for one FTE for community engagement, the ones that go actually go to the home, they on average see how many and what is their caseload. And and then how much are you paying them, right? So also important to take care of our own. And then you would see if kids are actually, families are being supported, how many parents are being supported, and then the need in terms of language capacity. I don't see, like, it's not visual, and I can see if we struggle with understanding per capita, what does that mean? Families are definitely struggling, right? Because language capacity, access, or other issues. And so I would like to see that. Can you break that down and submit it to us? All of the different people, the social workers, the liaisons, the community engagement, the FCOCs, and guidance counselors, if you have them. Can you create a visual chart to give us per capita what that looks like? Thank you. And then the other question that I have for you, sorry, is in terms of arts facility, I think it was Tony. Tony, you were talking about facility needs, and I really appreciate that there's a real intentional effort in making sure that our students are prepared or that they are equipped to actually having a true art experience. Can you also tell me how many schools actually have art teachers? How many schools actually have art classrooms? And then how many schools actually have auditoriums? And then how many will need repairs in order for it to have that theater capacity that you would need for art? Is that a you don't have it right now?
So the arts, I put in the packet that's linked in the slideshow has the list of what art teachers are within each school, breaking it down by art, dance, music, and theater.
Oh, I know the purpose of this hearing is not always just for you and I, it's for the people watching. So on record, if you could give me that answer.
Yes, I will need to get back to you with how many schools have arts classroom space and auditorium space. Because we do have some elementary school arts teachers who are utilizing carts and going to classrooms in that model as opposed to having like a music classroom or an art classroom.
The first part of that was how many schools actually have art teachers? You mentioned 25 new ones. I just wanted to know how many schools have them.
Yes, I believe we only have one elementary school with a dedicated certified arts teacher. And then at the high school level, all the high schools have arts. Madison Park has design and communication track through the career and technical education department.
Sorry, did you just mention 2 schools have art teachers and no other schools have art teachers?
No, sorry. There is one elementary school, small one, I believe, that does not have a certified arts teacher. They have partners coming in. And then at the high school level, all the schools have arts. So
one elementary school has it or doesn't?
Does not.
Okay. I thought I heard both. No problem. And then in terms of Parent University, to Councilor Mejia's question, also a breakdown per capita in terms of the budget. You could submit that, please. And in terms of family engagement, school site council, parent council, can you tell me if you do have metrics to measure the engagement for each school? And if you don't, obviously you have to take minutes, you have to take attendance. And so this is information that's accessible. Is there a place where the public can actually access this information?
We are building a dashboard to do that. You will have a dashboard forward-facing with all that information. And exactly, it measures, it takes into account fully elected rosters of elected positions, minutes, meeting notes, all of the things that are tangibly compliant. And then it's going to be a matter of talking about, again, going back to those surveys and how we use those surveys and the results we get from those surveys, and complaints, or the opposite, hopefully, satisfaction around what it feels like to be authentically engaged. So there's a feeling of authentic engagement and collaboration, which is an area that we'll have to measure in other ways, but the compliance information you will see in the forward-facing dashboard this fall. I'm sorry, Dr. Tavares, were you going to?
It's okay. I just wanted to share one important piece, Counselor, as part of your question around the systemic supports and the systemic ways in which we're building capacity. I know that you heard us.
I didn't ask
last
you
meeting
about capacity or systemic capacity. Maybe that was someone else.
Oh, I apologize. You have
please.
mentioned how we shared like some of the FCOCs and some of the sharing of staffing across schools. And I just wanted to make sure that I addressed that. So I apologize if I misunderstood your question. Just wanting to share that one of the investments is around building capacity of the regional models to make sure that each region across our system has the family engagement support with the family engagement facilitators. Currently, we have 5. The investment is to have 9. So each one of the regions is going to have someone dedicated to the work of building the capacity of family liaisons at the school level and really supporting the professional development. And to your point around data, making sure that we also have to, just connecting to what Chief Snyder shared around that dashboard, that work is really being monitored and assessed in a very specific way.
Thank you, Dr. Tavares. Tony, before I forget, please include, again, how many facilities are available for arts in terms of theater, and how many will need improvements, capital improvements. And then finally, my question is in terms of curriculum breakdown for parent access. Do you guys have, or does BPS provide some sort of toolbox that provides parents with understanding, okay, my kid's going to school, all right, what is a council, what is a site council, what is the curriculum, where do I access Parent University, how do I, if I wanted to be an employee, how do I do that? Out of school management, health needs, orientation package, I understand, but this toolbox, it would essentially be a full workshop of some sort, and it would be interactive. It would be like something that parents and students could use, sort of like those intervention activities that family sort of therapeutic activities that therapists bring to your home. Some sort of binder or some packet, not just a packet because those are boring, but maybe it's interactive, maybe it's questions and answers, maybe it's behavior modification charts included. But I feel like there's always some need for parents to just have a toolbox of their own. And I remember back in the 90s, BPS providing a miniature version of this. Anyway, just a suggestion. It sounds like it's not available. And also in terms of the after-school program, I think you all know here that we're all supporting all schools extended program, if not some sort of like virtual partnership with colleges or some sort of homework support to accommodate children's needs. And this actually is the final one, I promise you. Quality control. BPS seems to be like a huge corporation, like obviously $1.something billion, that's a lot of money. Do you have, or have you thought of a need for an office of customer service that would provide quality assurance or quality control to all of your services rendered? For example, you provide all of these liaison and community outreach and unmonitored types of works and outreach. How do you measure, to Councilor Mejia's point, how do you know? How do you know parents are being reached? How do you know they have what they need? How do you know there was follow through? How do you know if a worker says, I went to this person's home, they actually went? And I know you have supervisors and you do all of that, but you know how human beings are. It's like the quantum sleep theory experiment. If you're not being watched, nothing happens. But how do you know? Like, it feels like you guys have a lot of services and you're a big organization. Like, wouldn't you then have quality assurance department? And do you have one? And have you thought of it if you don't have one?
Counselor, I think you're hitting on something really critical. We absolutely work with our Office of Data and Accountability. And then within that, we have many ways in which we measure different ways in which we're doing the work. One of them is the parent essentials that we offer as well. Just to your earlier point around what information is available to parents, I think it's coupled with the challenge of being such a large district. At the same time that you're giving us these very practical and right-on ways of thinking about the work, we also are grappling with some of the ways in which we have to manage the challenges that we face in being such a diverse city and wanting to differentiate how we support community. Sometimes that catches us up in not having a one-way-fits-all kind of approach. It's like we want the one-way-fits-all so that we try to catch everyone, and we want to also differentiate and honor the ways in which communities need us to show up for them and to work with and alongside them. So those are some of the ways, and the way you even laid it out is absolutely speaking to some of the ways in which we try to really address these needs. Some of it happens at the school level, some of it happens at the regional level, some of it happens at the larger district level, and then it has to go back and forth and in between. And I know Chief Snyder can share a little bit more about the parent essentials, and we'll try to take apart a little bit of the questions that you asked and try to respond to the best of our ability to.
It's a lot for you to manage. It's certainly a humongous thing for parents to manage. So it needs to go through one hub, one streamlined process. And I believe that that's some sort of virtual back office with multiple languages where families can call for technical meeting one-on-one. And it's quality assurance, and it's also assisting them with understanding systems and accessing, right? And so that office doesn't exist. And I know because I used to be an FCOC. I know because I worked in Perry University. I used to teach ESOL for BPS as well. So that's how I know all the stuff about your department. So I look forward to that. I would love to talk for more, but I've taken up both of my times, my 10.
It's okay. I just wanted to plug the helpline, Counselor, if I may, because it's such a new entity and it does have a ticket system where we absolutely do some of those things that you mentioned weren't done before. So I just wanted to make sure that I would love to have you come and see the helpline, and I invite you anytime because of course your input is really critical. All the community input is really critical.
But the helpline does not assist in these ways, right? And
they actually do. Now they do.
They do. Now they do.
Yeah, now they do. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And do they provide quality assurance?
Yes. So the model is resolution, right? So like we don't just take a ticket that just, closes by itself. We make sure that there's a whole system of like closing via resolution. And so we can tell you more about it at a later time because we're out of time. But yes, the intention is that as it grows, and it was new for FY22, but we are expanding it so that it's a model that it's beyond a call center, right? It provides technical assistance for parents sometimes on issues related to Chromebooks.
That's great. That's great. I mean, I understand. People call for help. I get it. But you want to expand it to do all of these other things.
Yes. And in multiple languages, Counselor.
Well, I would hope so.
Yes, yes. Me too.
Anna, where were you a principal?
I was at the Hernandez.
Oh.
Almost 9 years, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No wonder you look familiar. All right. Okay. All right, so we have about 40 minutes left. There is 1, 2, 3, is Council President Flynn here? 3. So Council Collette, I think it's safe to say, because we have 40 minutes left, I will allow each councilor 10 minutes, and you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I do appreciate your presentation. I got on just as you all were wrapping up, but I was able to listen in, so I do have a couple of questions. Thank you again for everything that you all do. I'm happy to see the additional investments in community engagement, and my colleagues have discussed the parent university at a long clip, as well as the family liaisons and family advancement. One thing that I have heard, and when we're really thinking about being intentional about building this pipeline, looking at talent, understanding that there's talent there and there's real passion and love there from our parents, and I'm specifically thinking about East Boston High School. I'm a little biased in this conversation. My mom has been a family liaison at Eastie since 1998, but something that has been brought up and brought to my attention is that when we do want folks and parents to be involved and to be BPS employees, sometimes, and I just would love to get some clarity on this, sometimes they cannot be hired because of their immigration status, because some of them are undocumented, and this specifically has to do with federal funding. So there's been times where somebody has wanted to be an employee, and because the grant comes from the federal government or whatever, there's just a barrier for undocumented folks. And this is exactly who we want to have in our community and build that pipeline for. So I'm just wondering if anybody can speak to that, provide any clarity and how we're rectifying that situation, especially as we build up Parent University for this year and future years.
Good afternoon or morning, Councilor. I think the way I would respond to that is that we do have legal obligations on how we hire folks. And we obviously have to comply with whatever laws and statutes are around hiring and immigration status. So I think what I'd like to do is give you a more formal answer offline, but that is something that we are aware that it's an issue, and we're not able to hire different people for different reasons, whether it's Corey, Sori, as well. So we'll get back to you on a more specific answer on that, but we are aware that that is a challenge of hiring some of our parents.
Thank you for that. I mean, I'll just underscore that point. If we're trying to be a model institution where we're trying to provide opportunities for everybody, I think immigration status should not matter, as well as if you are a returning citizen. That's something that we're working on in the city of Boston. And I know the Corey aspect of it is more difficult, but at least for our immigrant parents, giving them that opportunity is going to be huge. So thank you for that. And I do, through the chair, look forward to receiving that information or having that conversation offline. I'm really excited about the fifth quarter investments too, with those 130 programs. The athletics is huge. Could you talk to me a little bit about how fifth quarter in particular is servicing some of our English language learners and our kids with special needs? And if you have specifics for my district, East Boston, Charlestown, and the North End, I would love to hear how those resources are being utilized.
I'm going to let Chief Snyder give more of the details, Councilor Coletta, but one thing that we're most excited about for the first time, which you already mentioned, is the expansion of opportunity for our students with special needs. We're really proud of that work that we're doing to really give opportunity for more students to access summer learning, and Chief Snyder can give additional details. So thank you for highlighting that.
Last year was the first year that we piloted inclusion with students who were multilingual learners. And in fact, almost half of the students who did summer, who fall into those programming, were able to take advantage of inclusive opportunities in fifth quarter. So we learned a lot from that. And this year will be the first year that we are partnering with the Office of Special Education and our partners to think about what does inclusion look like for students with disabilities. This is the first year of a multi-year rollout. It's a lot like implementing inclusion in school, right? It's not a switch we can flip and it's just all there. We are beginning this year working primarily but not exclusively in schools, in fifth quarter programs, in buildings that already have expanded school year for students with IEPs, because if we need those services, if we need those one-to-ones, as we learn about what our inclusive opportunities need, they're going to be in the same building to support that. So that feels like an assurance of success there. We also have dozens of partners who, when they applied to host programming, we asked them if they would have the capacity to consider inclusion opportunities. And so where we can find small cohorts of students who have shared space in terms of the disability they may need served, we're able then to look at applying BPS resources to match that partner location, right? So that's the work that's happening now. The first wave of registration and assignment for summer, they were looking at that at the end of last week. So we will have a really good understanding of where we have students in programs in schools and which of our partners are going to start to need additional allocations of BPS support. I don't have it broken down for you today, but we have a little list growing here of things that we're going to turn into you, and I can add to that.
And I wanted to just share, Councilor Coletta, as far as East Boston, which you may not know is actually very close and dear to my heart too. We are working really closely with I want to say Tommy, but that's not, I wanted to say his official title, the school superintendent of, my goodness. So we're working really closely with him, and we actually have a meeting with Region 1 school leaders on Thursday to discuss some of the specifics around how we're supporting the summer work in your region.
That's great, and thank you so much. I would love to understand exactly what programming is happening in my district. I know you're building it out and you're trying to be responsive to the needs and match up with what's going on. Something that I had heard from Charlestown parents, for example, is like, hey, I just found out that my kid got into the summer program through BPS, and we really don't need to get in based on our socioeconomic status. I don't know if you're placing any emphasis on that specific demographic, and if at some point we can just get that information, who is signing up, what their demographics are, their socioeconomic status, and how we're actually serving them and some of our most high need folks.
We'll definitely have much more of that data at the end of this week, and we'll share it with you. Okay.
Thank you all so much. That's it for me, Chair. Thank you for allowing me to ask my questions this round, and I hope you feel better.
Thank you, Councilor Coletta. Let's see, so I don't miss anyone. Councilor Braden, thank you for joining us. We are in our second round, and today we'll only be doing 2 rounds. My allergies and asthma is kicking my butt, so I'm off camera and just wanted to update you. Councilor Murphy, do you have questions for second round, or should I go straight to Councilor Mejia? Okay.
Am I going to go before Councilor Braden? Is that what you said?
Yes, you're next, and then Councilor Braden if Councilor Aaron Murphy is still not available. Councilor Mejia, you have 10 minutes.
Okay, great. And you guys are so lucky that I am also feeling the allergy situation, so I can't be my full self here. So you're getting the watered down version of me because I'm sneezing. I'm trying to hold it together in between. But let's keep going. I want to talk a little bit about the arts programming. Having graduated from the Boston Public Schools, at the time we had art, we had theater, we had music, we had it all. And while I understand, there's some who have and some who have not. I have participated in various fundraising opportunities for programming, like the Boston Music Chorus Group, I think it's called, the Boston. It's an organization that partners up with BPS and brings art, music in particular, into our Boston Public Schools, and then they have partnerships, I think, with 20 schools right now. So I'm just curious if you can talk to me a little bit about how young people are beyond that type of programming. What are some of the other ways that we're helping to fill the gap? We have 119 schools, I think it is. Yes or no, Sam? 119? Okay. So can you tell me in terms from an equity standpoint, and I know you said only one school did not have a full-time arts teacher, but I'm just curious if you could just tell me, out of the 119 schools, are we fully funding art enrichment programming for all schools?
Yeah, so the majority of I'll start with the elementary schools. In particular, the majority of our students are receiving twice weekly arts. So that could be music, theater, dance, or visual art.
Tony,
And then
is that through BPS funding or through partnerships?
BPS funding.
Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to understand is, because a parent at an event that I attended said that there are certain schools who have additional supports, but because they've had to fundraise for those additional programming, so there seems to be a equity gap in terms of real access to full art opportunities. Can you talk to me about that?
Sure. So every school gets to pick what kind of art forms they want, right? So our smaller schools in particular, most of them have either music or visual art. A lot of them now too, I'm starting to see more theater teachers at the elementary level. And so what you might find is leading on partnerships, like you brought up the Boston Music Project earlier, to go in schools that may not have music, but have art, and theater, and dance. And each school receives a bucket of funding through the Opportunity Index formula. So that goes specifically to partnerships. So that's where the equity comes in as far as how much money in partnership funding can be used for the arts. Additionally,
that you have the sufficient funds to really be as competitive as our suburban districts, because we have a lot of money in our budget. I just want to make sure that we're utilizing our money in a way that makes sense. Do you feel you have enough resources to provide every single child at every single school and every single, as you all say, what your mantra is? Do you have the money to be able to execute against that vision? Yes or no?
for offering twice weekly arts, yes, at the elementary school level, and now at the high school that we have the mask for investments. I think if we want dance, art, music, and theater in every single elementary school, we do not have that. And that's not something that you find in most elementary schools in the state of Massachusetts either. It's usually just visual art and music. So it's really great that we're able to offer dance and theater.
Thank you for that. I'm going to move on to athletics. My daughter played softball in her school, and there were times when the bus was not showing up to Councillor Flynn's remarks, and I'm just curious about what are we doing as we move forward, Avery, to help fix that.
I'm sorry that happened, but I don't think this spring, this entire year, I think similar to Dr. DePina's earlier statements, transportation, the incidents and the rate of incidents really have not occurred at a high level. There are going to be instances where there are maybe bus issues, or maybe there's bus problems from a number of different situations, but those incidents really are few and far between. And I could look, I need to look to find the exact date there. We do track these incidents, but I mean, off the top of my head, I don't remember a number. We have not done a great deal of rescheduling or canceling because of bus issues.
Thank you. And I will just, I'm going to go back to family engagement, which is my favorite topic. Let's just talk a little bit more about investments in family engagement. And I want to lean into a little bit further up to that point that my counselor colleague was making in regards to our quality control. Like, how do we really know that parents are, I've talked about this exit survey, why do they leave our schools? But how are we holding ourselves accountable? I mean, $1 billion is a lot of money to be spending, and there's 119 schools. But it seems like when it comes to family and community engagement, we're still missing the mark. So can you talk to me a little bit about, and I have clips here, Nate, from 2020, 2021, 2022, and I'm beginning to sound and feel like a broken record. And every time I ask the questions, I get the same answers, but then I don't see the results year after year. So I'm just curious if someone here could tell me why year after year, I hear this is an area of growth, this is an area of opportunity, but then I don't see the investments or the return on those investments playing out. Nate, can you talk to me about what is preventing BPS from really meeting the moment as it relates to family engagement and investments?
I'm not sure in this case, I'm the best person to.
You are. I'm sorry, Nate. You are. You know why? Because you are in charge of these dollars, and you are the one that's, out of everybody here, aside from Sam, you have been the most consistent. So you have a role and a responsibility to help me understand why we keep having the same conversation. I keep asking the same questions as it relates to family engagement and investments. And year after year, the only thing that changes are the characters that are in front of me, but yet the investments and the return on those investments are not meeting the moment. So that's why I'm asking you, because you are the one that's consistent. You or Sam, one of you both are gonna have to give me the understanding as to why we're not meeting the moment when it comes to family engagement and why families still feel disconnected, and what are we going to do differently that we can put on the record, and the investments that are gonna help Miriam meet this moment, give her the tools that she needs to really be successful. That's what I want.
If the panelists are not able to answer, state that, and please provide it in writing.
Yeah, I'll give a brief answer. We can follow up in more detail, but the way I would respond, Councilman, here is that over the years, we've made significant investments in our family community engagement division. And we can go back and chart out for you a list of what those investments are and what they look like. And then we'll have to get back to you on the impact of that. So one of the things that Superintendent Skipper is really big on us doing going forward is making sure we analyze the true impact of our work. So we've been charged, and our divisions have been charged with making sure we're very intentional on creating matrices that show and demonstrate that. So we're in the process of making sure we build that up. So any new investments going forward, we'll be doing that. But
who are you working with, Sam, to help you do that?
Yeah, so we have a cross-functional team that we work with collaboratively between our divisions, between my divisions and operations, between Dr. Tavares' divisions in family community engagement, and with Dr. Chen's division in academics. So we're working closely to make sure that with all of our investments, we're tracking the true impact on our students.
I didn't hear community. I didn't hear stakeholders.
I'm not sure why I just mentioned that, Councilman here. I just mentioned family community engagement is one of our divisions we work with.
Yeah, but are those folks at the table?
They're here on the screen with you, ma'am.
No, I'm not talking about the departments. I'm talking about the people.
Yes, we work collaboratively with a cross-functional team of folks between and across our three divisions, yes.
I'm talking about everyday people, not your teams. I'm talking about community partners, community stakeholders, community folks that can hold us accountable to that work. That's
if you have people that you want us to engage with, we're happy to do that. Just provide us that list. But we have groups of people that we work with across the city. And if we're missing someone, we apologize, but we welcome the opportunity to meet with folks. So if you have a list of people or persons that'd love to connect with us, we're happy to do so.
I've already provided that to Dr. Granson in regards to some of the equity roundtable, specifically Latinos. We have 42% of Latinos students in our schools, and their voices often go unheard. Hell, they don't even know how to speak English, let alone be heard, right? So can you talk to me a little bit about that, Denise? What are we doing to beef up our immigrant, recent arrivals, and Spanish-speaking efforts? I want specifics.
Yes, but I want to step back to address your first question, which I do think I have additional responses to.
Ms. Snyder, pardon me. Councilman Mejia, your time is up. I will allow Ms. Snyder to respond, and happy to come back to you for closing remarks after this. Ms. Snyder?
Sure. So some of those investments, we did not have a BPS helpline until last March. We had ad hoc pieces. People could call for COVID. People could call for exam schools or regular admission. We have a full-time, full service helpline in which families call for anything from information to conflict resolution. That's new. That's a huge investment. We have 18,000 touch points, 15,000 touch points. I know Miriam mentioned it earlier. That is progress on our end. We're about to launch this fall, or relaunch, to be honest, a family-friendly school initiative. It's all part of that dashboard that I mentioned earlier, but it allows our families to see how family-friendly are their schools being. And then that puts a little pressure on schools to reach out when they recognize that maybe they have some capacity building and some development to do. A lot of people don't fully understand what authentic engagement means. And so being at the table as part of the regional network structure of support means we have someone there constantly pushing people to raise this mindset and capacity building area. And that's where you're going to begin to see some of the movement. I know you're tired of saying, when is the movement coming? But there are things that we have been doing. We moved school site councils, full rosters. Pathetically, 57 schools last year, 90 schools this year. We are moving the dial. Is there work to do? No one here is going to say that there isn't work to do. There is.
And I would just add to that real briefly, just another concrete example. I just joined my colleague, Dr. Tavares, in a meeting with the Greater Boston Latino Network to discuss a whole lot of issues regarding the Latino community. So we work collaboratively, and we continue to do so, and we'll push the envelope on the impact of our investments.
Thank you, Dr. DePina. And Ms. Snyder, I think, I hear Councilman here loud and clear, and so last year was my first budget, and we reviewed the same questions, and it does feel that your responses are sort of on a macro level, just sort of, workshoppy, and I wonder then if it's because we're just, again, we're communicating, all of this is auditory, it's not visual, and so actually, workshopping this through like on a visual context or some sort of platform that we can go back and forth and look at data and say, here's the issue, here are the goals, these are our efforts. So more in a visual context, I think, may help this conversation. I have, as I mentioned, I have experience working for BPS. It's a monster, and every time you deal with children, it's a huge undertaking. DCF has, I'm not going to compare you to DCF. I'm saying that it's a huge institution dealing with children, and there lies all of these obstacles. And so I'm happy to get those responses in writing. But I think that working collaboratively with the council means that we're both thinking about ways to get to the answers, or you providing the answers to us in a way that we can track what you're saying. Because I don't want sort of empty conversations where, the council's frustrated because they feel like, or we feel like we're not getting some answers, and that, or some of the councilors do, and then BPS is frustrated because obviously you're not the parents, you're not the teachers, you're not in charge of it all. It's a huge institution, multifaceted services, and with a system, in a city that's very systemically and structurally racist. So you're fighting a lot, right? And then here you are trying to provide services to the best of your ability, and you come to the council, and here's this contentious conversation, like back and forth. So happy to hear any suggestions about how we could be hearing you a little bit better, or doing this conversation in a way that's more visual, because I'm hearing this a lot. And as a chair, I'm sharing this with you. I hope you're listening and receiving this with an open mind, and to its true intention. I want to find a way for us to practically get to a part where we say, I can say to my counselors, here's the reason right here why this budget should pass. And I'm hearing a lot from counselors that it should not. So work with me. Let's talk. I'm available to talk offline as well, so we can figure out how to get to some sort of resolution. Councilor Braden, you have been patiently waiting. You have 10 minutes, and then we go back to Councilor Mejia for 5 minutes, and then we wrap up.
Very good, thank you. I apologize, I was at the Mayor's Coffee Hour out in Alston Brighton, and lots of constituents wanting to talk to us about schools and all sorts. And one of the beauties of the event this morning was the Boston Music Project. The students from the Windship were there playing music, and I had the opportunity on Saturday to go to the Honan Library and see an exhibit by the students at the Edison, wonderful artwork. And I really do think that when we talk about enrichment, it sort of worries me that art and music are seen as a sort of icing on the cake. I think they should be part of the core curriculum in a sense of being able to prepare young people for all sorts of careers, music, arts, graphic design. I really do also think that arts, expression through the arts is a wonderful tool to help with our students handle this epidemic of mental health issues that we're having after COVID. So, I really want to see a strong and robust arts program in our schools, especially the earlier grades. I was blown away by the artwork over at the Edison. It's sort of first grade through 8th grade, and all of it was incredibly wonderful. And then also the issue about athletics. I'm on the record of saying that I don't think that our athletics programs are another very important tool in helping to support our students with mental health issues. It builds confidence, leadership skills. It works on their mental health and their physical health and wellness as well. So, I'm sorry I missed most of the conversation this morning. I will go back and review the tape, but, I really feel that arts and athletics and music, arts, theatre, music, creative expression is vital to the full development, the rounded development of our young people. They may not all go into it. Opens up career options for them going forward as well. So this is more of a statement rather than a question. I want to know, really, athletics wise, are we putting the money in to make sure that our students have access to physical education and athletics in schools? That's really it. I don't know who would like to answer this. I know Nate and I have talked about this in the past, but I don't think it's an optional extra. This is really critical to the health and wellness of our students.
Thank you, Councilor Braden. I'll take a first pass at answering the question, and I'll defer to my colleagues as well. One of the things we did this year and will continue to do into next year's budget is to make sure that we submitted MIA applications for all high schools in the district. So if you recall, a year and a half or so ago, that wasn't the case, but we made it a point this year to make sure that all high schools were registered and compliant and had the opportunity to participate in MIA contests. So we took care of that problem going into this school year, and then we'll maintain that going forward. So with that, we've grouped schools in different co-ops so they can make sure they have the ability to participate in whatever sports they want to by school. So that's speaking for the athletic side of the house, that's kind of what we did there. I'll defer to my colleagues on the physical education not compliance, but access, because that's different than athletics. But I don't know if you want to add anything about the access component to it.
Yeah, that's good morning, Councilor Braden. That's one of the buckets that obviously we're looking to address with our resources and with our budget. Really trying to be in a position to go after and create opportunities where they exist. I think specific to your district, Boston Green Academy has had some interest in exploring some sports. So we're in talks with them and working to look at exploring some opportunities that make sense for them, from a facility standpoint, from a participation standpoint, from a developmental standpoint. Those things are happening. Athletics and physical education are two separate departments. We work very closely together to support each other. But I think in terms of the athletics and the opportunity access, we're charged with that piece. PE works under a little bit of a different framework, but I know they're working just as hard to make sure that PE is available to all students as well.
So are there schools in our city that don't have access to a gym for phys ed?
We do have schools with gyms and without gymnasiums, and this is where we take advantage of our physical activity opportunities to take advantage of both the indoor spaces and outdoor spaces in and around the schools. And that includes parks that may be near us or open spaces that may be near us as well. So we do our best and get real creative with the different schools and the limitations we do have with some of the schools that don't have gymnasium, but they may have access to outdoor opportunities to do physical activity.
So, and if the park is further away, are we able to provide transportation for the park? Like I know the Winship in Brighton Centre doesn't have a gymnasium, and they only have outdoor playground around the yard. They don't have access to a park necessarily, but then Smithfield is down in Alston. It's a massive, beautiful city-owned park. So, do we have ways for students to participate? You know, and I'm sure the Winship's not the only school. But how do students get to these parks?
Yeah, we try to keep the access to the outdoor spaces in really close proximity to the schools, more walking distance, because if you get into transportation, that cuts into the time allowed to do physical activities. As a reminder, schools are on set schedules with their classes, and the further you go, it complicates the ability for students to actually truly participate. And then with the unpredictability of the traffic, as we know, it just gets complicated when we start transporting kids to different spaces that far away. We try to keep those activities and opportunities in more walking distance, if you will.
Okay. So in terms of the art, the Boston Music Project and other projects like music and for elementary schools, how is that funded?
So there's a few different buckets of funding that are available. So schools receive partnership funds through the partnerships office using an opportunity index formula. Sometimes it's using school-based funding, ESSER funds, fundraising. Also, we have the BPS Arts Expansion Initiative with EdVestors, and that's typically, it's a grant process with schools and partners working in tangent. And that's usually around $400,000 in partnership funding that's given out each year, including Boston Music Project.
So how many folks have you in your office that work on specifically on partnerships? Because I think we talked about this last year, and I just wondered how many folks you have now.
So the partnerships office has a director, a manager of industry and volunteerism, and a newly funded position of coordinator of faith-based manager. So 3.
3 people? And that's for all of the schools in the system? Was that 100 and something schools?
Correct.
And do you think? Yeah, I'm just really skeptical that that's a very robust approach. It is
correct. I mean, there is one aspect of the work that we do, maximize the resources and the support from central office as we partner with other colleagues to liaison between schools that are going to utilize the partnerships fund, because we know that schools, have to worry about the day-to-day operation. So our team within the partnerships office also gets the support from other colleagues in central office to serve as partnership fund liaisons to help leverage those relationships between the school leaders and the partners so that, they can maximize and broker those relationships for them.
Yeah, because I think I'm back to Councillor Mejia's point about equity. Like some schools that have a really robust and active parent council are able to, they bring a lot of expertise to the table, but other schools may not have that. So, it's really, in terms of the level or in terms of making sure that we get equity in the system and that all of our students get access, it's really important that we have a robust enough system and partnership development. Like, I think we're leaving a phenomenal amount of resources on the table in Boston. In terms of science education, robotics, coding, athletics, arts, we're just leaving so much. We have a really, and the city, when we think about pilot payments, we don't get a whole lot out of, they don't pay their cash benefits, their cash assessment necessarily, but they say, oh, we give so much in terms of all this sort of payment in kind, and that's where we need to leverage all that knowledge and all those resources to make sure we are working not only with our nonprofit sector in the city, but also our business sector to make sure that we're bringing everything that we have on the table to get there,
Councilor Braden?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Forgive me for a moment. You've taken 12 minutes. Can you wrap up in 30 seconds?
Oh, well, I'm done. I'm just going to keep rattling this cage until I get answers. I really do think we're leaving so much on the table and we need to step it up a little. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Would you like to make your closing remarks now? We're going to Councilor Mejia to wrap us up.
No, right. I really feel that, enrichment, we talked to enrichment programs, they're vitally important to the health and well-being of our students and to their future academic success. Athletics and arts are not an optional extra. They're not the icing on the cake. They should be part of our core approach to developing well-rounded young people who are going to be successful in life. So, anything we can do to add more resources and to make this more effective and to leverage the huge number of resources that we have in the city of Boston would be wonderful. So let's keep working on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Braden. I agree with you 100%. We can't talk about mental health without talking about all of these additional. Athletics is so much more than just healthy brain, but also, the teammanship, right? All the social, emotional stuff that kids learn just being in a team, part of a team. Very excited to talk more tomorrow morning in our hearing and elaborating more on these resources that Councilor Braden brought up. Councilor Mejia, feel free, take us away to closing.
Yes. So you broke up a little bit, Councilor Anderson.
You're okay. I was just saying, as soon as you're done, you can let me know and then I'll wrap us up.
Okay. Wow. I really do appreciate you giving me additional time. There's just so much to unpack because we are the fiscal stewards of this budget and everybody's going to always yell at me or you for the decisions that we don't make when we should. And so I just want to make sure that I'm doing my due diligence. We didn't really get into which schools have gyms and they're not using the cafeteria as a gym and their gym as a cafeteria. We know that exists, right? So I'd love to have a better sense of how many schools have actual gyms. I don't want a thesaurus answer, Sam. I just need to know how many schools have gyms.
Can I add to that question? I attended Snowden my first year. If we're not using the WCA, what's Snowden using for a gym?
I know they use different, they use the commons to go out, do outdoor activities, and they ride. We can get the specifics for you though. I know they do utilize outdoor spaces, but I'd have to get back to you on specifically what they do.
Yeah, and when it's winter time, right, our children are always being sacrificed for their wellness. And we're talking about enrichment, and we don't even have enough time to eat or have real spaces to be able to do that. and which schools have outdoor plays, places to play or fields. There's all of that I really want us to think about in the next round. And I would love to hear a little bit more about how every child is guaranteed to get physical activity every single day, not every other day, or things guised as this is what it looks like. Because I really do feel like when we're talking about enrichment, it should be the whole child. It should be every aspect of their wellness, not just the stereotypical things that we want to talk about. So, Nate, I see you. Are you mad? Is that you showing the angry face there with your arms crossed like this? Let me find out. You're not showing up in your best self right now. But all jokes aside, guys, I really do think that, I'm trying to do my best to be a good partner with BPS. And I think it's important for people to recognize that. I'm not going to yell at y'all the way I normally do, because we're trying to model behavior for our community so that they can believe that you all really do care about them. So that starts with me showing that I kind of believe that y'all do. But I think that at some point, as I expressed to Superintendent Skipper and my governmental liaison, is that y'all gonna have to meet us halfway. And that includes really being super intentional about investments that we're going to make to ensure that families are heard and seen. And until I see that, I'm going on the record right now. I just don't know if we're really utilizing our dollars in ways that reflect the values of what our families have been fighting for. And so that's what I'm going to be paying attention to over the next few weeks, is what adjustments are going to be made in those bucket areas. So I really do appreciate the time and the energy that you all have provided us here today. I'm not going to go on with additional questions because I know we are short on time, but just wanted to say thank you. And this is a partnership, and I hold myself accountable to this. I'm not just here coming to yell at y'all. I have rolled up my sleeves. I've actually created programs with private dollars to support the social and emotional and well-being of our students. Because when you want to do something, you got to do it yourself sometimes to teach people what it looks like. And I've done that. But at some point, we're going to have to catch up and make those investments. It's not fair that we're always asking parents to create programming and to help fund it to be able to execute. I mean, I'll give you an example. There was a parent who was organizing a school, and I, out of my own little pocket, purchased a monitor so that the students could have, their daily activities. These are things that I should not be doing. These are things that BPS or somebody else should be doing, but I should not be coming out of my own pocket. I should not be tapping into my own, all of this that we do, it's enabling BPS to continue to just do business as usual. We're gonna have to reassess if our way of working is really working, because it is not meeting the moment for a lot of our hardest to reach parents in our most disengaged schools. And so I offer that because it is, it does weigh heavy on me, because I have a sense of responsibility. Now that I'm on the other side of this, I feel the heat from my community, and people are asking me, why are we still having the same conversation that we had 8 years ago? And the only thing that keeps changing is the leadership. And now I'm on the other side, and I have to answer those questions and say, well, I don't know what else I could do. So what else can I do, Sam and Nate? What else do I need to do to help you help my people?
Thank you, Council Mejia. Was that rhetorical?
No, I want them to tell me. What do I need to do differently? Because I don't want to come back here again next year and have to then answer to my people, what could I do differently? What do I need to say? What kind of questions should I be asking? What do I need to do differently? Tell me.
My suggestion would be for us to talk offline and make sure we have a clear list of things that you want to see in the budget and plan for it, so we can make sure we highlight to you where those investments are and understand what data points you want to look at to see for key performance indicators. I think that's a couple examples I would suggest.
Yeah, and I would suggest that you go back through every single hearing that I've sat through from 2020 till now and look at all the questions that I've asked and all the things that I have inquired about, and then get back to me on those things. Nate?
I think as it relates to today's hearing, I think the best thing we can do is help support the leadership of Miriam Ortiz and Ana Tavares as they lead the engagement efforts. I think you've noted that Sam and I are the only consistent members of this leadership team. Miriam has been on the engagement team for several years, but is now in a new leadership role. Super excited about that, and I think that stability and leadership in their division will help next year have different conversations around engagement. I think supporting the superintendent, making sure we have stable leadership at the top of the organization is also another way to help make sure these conversations move from year to year rather than feel like the movie Groundhog Day, which they're definitely feeling like for both of us.
And the last thing I'll say is that I noticed that Miriam didn't say much. And I don't know why. Maybe, I don't know.
I'm here, counselor. You know me, my history, and I speak for my colleagues in this regard that we are showing our commitment, I think, in some of the investments that you can see from previous year per your request, and the counselors' requests are showing and moving the needle towards increasing access to services to our most vulnerable. I think it's important to highlight that, leadership transitions at the very top have also been a top priority of this district. And as Nate just pointed out, with this latest leadership and Superintendent Skipper being, local, a product of, and a person who knows the district and knows our families from all the experience that she's had in our district in her previous roles, is showing, with the investments in the restructuring of her organizational chart, the regional structure. I think it's helping us sort of ground ourselves in her leadership as a new day for Boston Public Schools. So for us, as you know, this is personal. This is our, we are people, many of us with, backgrounds in grassroots community organizing. So for me, this is not just, a day job, but it's my life, right? It's like the commitment that I have with folks that have, led the work by leading and growing leadership among our peers and our parents. So I hear you, we hear you, and we're here for the accountability that comes with, the commitments that we are pushing forward. So I thank you for keeping us grounded and committed to what we say we're going to do. We can only do better.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilor Mejia.
No, I just want to say thank you to BPS. I know I'm always like a little chihuahua here, but I really do appreciate you all showing up. Not because you have to, I'm hoping, but because Councilor Anderson expects you to be here. So thank you, and let's just keep figuring out what we can do together. Thank you, Councilor Anderson, for your grace. I really do appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Councilor Mejia. A German Shepherd, I think, is more befitting. Loyal, advocates, protects, handsome is more befitting for you. I think so. Thank you so much to everyone. Dr. Tavares, I remember you. I had a lot of clients in the Hernandez, and I appreciate your service. I remember your work and really do appreciate you. It takes a lot. I don't know how you do it. Teachers and principals, to me, are guardian angels. It's God's work. You either are mad or you have a huge heart. A little bit of both. I saw that. So I would say that this conversation is going to continue. Dr. DePina, Nate, Ms. Snyder, Tony, Avery, and Ms. Miriam, Senora Ortiz, thank you so much for the conversation and for your grace. Councilor Mejia is a strong advocate. Councilor Braden, thank you so much for sticking around with us. Both are strong advocates, and I appreciate your grace with us while we advocate it. They can brew a lot of hard conversations, but it's the work that must be done. And I believe everyone here, faith is in the right place. Again, we just have to work out the kinks and keep it moving and making progress. I appreciate you all. I will see you tomorrow morning, and we'll continue the conversation. I've updated the dates that I've canceled for redistricting. So please check our website, or you should have gotten notifications as well through your email. Thank you, Councilman Mejia. Thank you, Council Braden, to administration, Council Chantel Barboza for always keeping us together with the administration, Karishma for your wonderful work on the budget, and of course, our amazing liaison Shane and Ethan on tech. I sound like Council Flynn, but it's a good thing to do. So today would be a good day to close this way. Thank you so much. Look forward to more.
Thank you, Councilor.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.